Hi, Marilyn here, and I'm back with Cotton and Chocolate, and we're doing month one of Wave Pool, and now I'm going to talk about the piecing. So if you want to refer to your month one, this the cutting instructions at the top, and now we're into piecing. So it's really easy. The first sections are talking about our 4 patches, and so you really need to refer to the colorways, which are our fabrics. Like I said earlier when I was talking about the cutting, I did a little swatch chart so that I really kept in line with what was what. And so the first sewing instructions here are going to be talking about sewing one fabric B square to backgrounds, and you're going to make 2 of these 4 patches. These are going to be going up in opposite corners here, and this is what I have here. I've just made one set for the demo. So this is a 4 patch doing our 3.5-inch squares to our 3.5-inch backgrounds. 2 of these, and when I pressed towards the fabric B's. Okay, so pressing towards those, make 2 of those 4 patches. And then jumping down, you're going to be taking your fabric C's, which are the blues, and doing the same thing, making 2 of those 4 patches, and I pressed towards the blues when I did those pairs. Okay, so you'll see that those will go in opposite corners. Okay, and then you're going to make one set that has both the fabric B and the fabric C, and it doesn't matter which way you press. I just press towards the blue. It doesn't matter, but you'll make one of those 4 patches, and those are going to go right in the center. So that's going to be guiding your colorway. So that's going to have blues going one way and your fabric B's going the opposite way. Okay. So now we're going to be doing the flying geese. So I'm going to kind of push this off to the edge a little bit so we can talk about that. These are taking these very large white rectangles that you cut, that 12.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles, and your really large green fabric A squares. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to be taking they're not like the traditional flying geese that I would make later on in this quilt. So these are kind of made with a folded corner actually. So let me just take one at a time here. So you're going to be taking this square, and you're going to be drawing a line on it, and then sewing it, and then folding it up this way, and then doing it the opposite way. So you can do all of these at once for all 4 sides. Makes it a little bit easier, but we'll just be doing one at a time, and I'll just show you the steps that I took. So you're going to be taking a ruler, you're going to be taking a pencil that you can see this line, and you're going to be drawing this line from point to point here all the way across. Okay, and you might not be able to see the line, but here I can see my line that I drew. All right, and then you do want to place a pin in here to hold it stable. If you want to, you can place a pin on each side. So I've pinned mine, and I've actually sewn a line here all the way across. Okay, so I'll take my pin out, but it's sewn, okay, from point to point on here. And then I'm going to take my ruler and then put my 1/4 inch right against that sewn line right here. Just mark my 1/4 inch. So my 1/4 inch is to the right. My sewn line is on the 1/4 inch mark here. So I'll cut it off so I have a 1/4 inch seam line. Whoops. What happened when you're not watching what you're doing? So there's my press, or my sewn line, and then I have a 1/4 inch seam line. And then I will just press that out. I don't have an iron right in front of me, so I'll just kind of finger press it. But you can see what I'm doing there. Okay, so I would go ahead and do that for all 4 pieces. Okay, so when we're doing this for smaller pieces, I'm going to be using my folded corner clipper, which is small for this. However, some of you have a large folded corner clipper, so I'm not going to suggest that you go buy the large one, because you would only use it once in this quilt. I actually have a large folded corner clipper. For some of you that own a large one, I'll just demo how that works once. But like I said, I will be using the small one many times in this quilt. I do happen to own a large one, and I did use it for this quilt, but I'll just show you. You would line it up for those of you that own the large one. You would line your hold the corner large. It's the XL, 6.5 inch in the corner and the top. This just prevents you from having to mark that line and then just make one cut. It prevents you from marking that line. And then I do stick a pin in it before I sew it. I would do all 4 and then just sew from that indented line down, okay? And then you have all of these nice triangles here. I got a little extra bit there, but I would cut that off. And if you sewed these, kept these and sewed these from point to point, which I did this one, look at that. You have all these half square triangles that, I don't know, you could use them for something later. They're big. Okay, so now you have to sew all of those before you put the other side on, okay? So I have this one sewn. Now I'll show you the other side, all right? So this one you have to mark again from point to point. And then if you aren't sure visually how it goes, lay it down, but it's point to point here. I've marked that and I've actually already sewn it, but it would go this way, okay? So I've marked that and I've sewn that from point to point here. If you aren't sure, test it to make sure you're doing it in the correct direction. You can only have one chance. So now I'm going to turn this, put my 1/4 inch marker here, and my ruler, line it up, and then cut that off. Okay, so now I have my flying geese block, and then I would just press that out towards the triangle that you've just added. And if you've done it correctly, you have a little 1/4 inch right there, and that's where your seam will go. So now you have you should do 4 of those. I do 4 on the other side. Okay, so we'll just put that aside for a minute. You make 4 of those. You can see those right there. Okay, so make 4 of those. Now you're going to make these outside pieces here, which is your little sashing around the center block. On each one, you'll do one side that has fabric B and one side that has fabric C. Okay, and so make 2 of those, and they're going to go around the block right here. And so we'll put our center in, and then I press towards those colored blocks. So now we'll be able to lay our block out. So we have this blue set up here, so this blue will be opposite there and on this opposite side. Here's my 4 patch here, and then I would have my other blue 4 patch this way, and then you're going to insert these 2 small rectangles that you have left, so you can see the layout of the block. And here's my 4 patch here and 4 patch here. And then, oh, I lay in my, if that's pieced, that goes right there. And then those lay in there. And you can see how that will work. And when these are pieced, that will all fit. Oh, and there's my big kitty, Mr. Bingley, showing up to help me piece. So if I move this over, you can see, no, we're not going to sit on the block beam. Okay, and that's how that fits in right here. So we have this piece here, the flying geese sits here. So the first thing in terms of piecing, and it shows you pressing right here, but it shows you pressing on the bottom here, how your pressing goes, okay? And then we're going to turn this over and it shows you finishing on the back. So the first thing that you do here is you piece your center, and then you're going to piece your flying geese here. You're going to press out, and then you're going to press these 4 patches and press them into the flying geese in, and then you'll piece that section to this main body and that section to that main body there. Okay. So when you are sewing this block onto here, I do flip this over so that I can see this intersection right here. And when you're sewing this, you don't want to sew right on this line. You want to sew, you know, about a thread or so inside. Because if you sew it right on the line, if I was to turn this over, look what happens, you miss that point, okay? So if I sew a thread or so to the inside of that intersection, meaning towards the raw edge, then I won't miss that point, Okay, so when I sew, I always have this side up rather than having the block side up this side. That way I wouldn't see where that intersection is. Okay, so no matter how it's doing, I flip it so that I see the intersection here up. Okay, so that's just a little tip when you're sewing. So these get pressed into there and those get pressed in. Okay, so actually those press out and those press in and those will nest together. And then you have your one big beautiful block, and you'll be saving that, and we'll be moving on to month 2 for our next set of blocks. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next month.